Is this thing working? What is that? Are we live? I think we're live. The absolute worst camera angles ever. Anyway, what's happening, everybody? A little bit different look. Obviously, working on the bike. So I figured, why not mix the two together, right? So anyway, you guys haven't already seen, got this thing up and running. Well, sorta. Let's just say that it started and that it ran. It's not really up and running. Matter of fact, I may have discovered a bit of a problem. And I think it might be that this thing's got a cooked head gasket. And that would suck. But I'm in the process of getting it all put together, and we'll just have to see what ends up happening with that. But among other issues that this thing's got, yeah, it may have a cooked head gasket. So while I am fiddling around with this, if you guys have any questions, typically Mopar related, feel free to jump in, ask away. You know, most of the time I'm doing, sitting in the office and just kind of chatting it up, and I never really bring you guys along with me for anything, really, for any part of this process that I'm always finding myself in the middle of. So, anyway, while I'm here, I might as well bring you a top tip and give you guys kind of a pretty cool story. By the way, when I say that I think it's got a cooked head gasket, it may have failed the head gasket right when I started. Speed Freak, thanks, man. Appreciate that. This mount is going to get real weird. If you guys are ever working on anything British, their connectors use these little wire clips along with, it's like a safety clip that locks it in. Funny thing though, these safety clips are, I don't know why they're put on the connectors that they're put on, because they're kind of, I mean, they're important, but they're not like important type connectors. One of them's a barometric pressure sensor. The other one's a water temperature sensor. And what I'm doing is I'm adding coolant to this thing. I had actually drained coolant at one point, but anyway, getting back to it, that's why this thing's all kind of set up the way that it is. But anyway, if you ever run into those, put your little flag on it. That makes it really easy to take off and put back on. Kind of a cool story. So for you guys that don't know, I recently lost my dad, which is a real bummer, but that's kind of a bummer. Right? But here's something cool that came from it. So this bike was actually my dad's bike. And I was going, man, what in the world? What was Dad doing with this? And how did he do this? Because my dad was pretty active with this bike and with other forums. So what I did was I started doing searches on how to do this and how to do that on the bike. Come to find out, my dad was real active on one of the Triumph forums. And so anytime I've had a question about this particular bike, I can go onto one of the Triumph forums and it's like I'm texting my dad. Hey, Dad, what were you doing with this? Because if I put in the problem that I've had or something that I've run into, my dad is answering that question on the forum. So it's really weird. In fact, it's like I get a quicker response from my dad in that respect than I would the other, if he was still around. So anyway, kind of an interesting thing, really cool. But yeah, it's I'm gonna have to duck around here. You'll have to listen to me talk, and I've got to put this clip in, and I can't get to it from that angle. But but yeah, so it was kind of neat. You know, I can not really, talk to my dad, but I can still connect to him because he's got so many posts on that Triumph forum. And, if I've got a question about the bike, I can just, like I say, ask Dad, so to speak, which is kind of neat. But, aside from that, Mopar news, what's out there? What's going on? Well, nothing. Everybody's starting to get their allocations for their 170s, which is kind of neat. Glad for those guys that were able to get their hands on one. Kind of a tough grab. So if these guys were able to get their hands on one, that's really good for them. I only hope that they can do something cool with them. And the other side of this is, and I don't really know how to say this, but I'm wondering how well that car is going to be received. And really, the question that I have, to be honest, is that let me ask you guys, do you guys even care at this stage of the game where this is 2023? Really fast cars are the norm. Not just factory cars, but really fast cars are the norm. One of the videos that I've got that I'm going to be doing, one of the standalone videos, sorry, I got a battery charger going on over here. One of the standalone videos is going to be kind of going along this value, and that is that, none of these cars is ever going to have the same impact as the original Hellcat. It's not. I get the cool factor and all of that with the 170, or I say cool factor. I get that it's fast, but fast doesn't make something cool. And it's not really changing the game. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by that. So, what a lot of folks will argue is that, well, this car is going to be the fastest car, and everybody starts getting to the ests, right? Fast est, quick est, that type of thing, which is cool. That's always fun to talk about. But the reality of all of this is, by the way, if you've ever wondered what a Triumph T59 air filter looks like, well, wonder no more. But the thing is that I haven't heard anybody talk about some of the other vehicles that are coming out. And there's some vehicles that are coming out that are exceptionally fast, that are going to be significantly quicker than the Demon 170. And I get it, okay? So not every car is going to be, I understand that a lot of folks are going to say, oh, they're EVs. Well, yeah, but they're also hybrids. And, there's a case to be made that, that supercharger, all that is you're cheating, right? But anyway, getting back to the point, there's a lot of really fast cars that are coming out now. And I got to thinking about this. I got to thinking about this today while I was driving around. I was driving Stormy today, and had a couple of meetings and took Stormy. Stormy, by the way, if you haven't seen her, she's looking tough with those built to serve wheels. But I got to thinking, in this era that we're living in, with Koenigsegg dropping a 2,300 horsepower hybrid, it's got a 1,500 horsepower twin turbo V8, and the rest of the power is made up by an 800 horsepower. It's kind of like an axial, kind of like a radial hybrid electric motor. Everything is fast nowadays. It's not like just one thing is quick or just one thing is impressive. It's not like that anymore. Everything is fast. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. If you were to go back in time just 10 years, 10 very short years, mind you, when it comes to car evolution, the fastest American car, or some of the fastest American cars, you would have had the Viper, you would have had the GT500. I think the ZL1 would have been out then, 2013. Anyway, you get the point that I'm making. You would have had a lot of really fast cars running around back then, and which is great to talk about, but nothing like what we have now. Nothing like what the Hellcat brought to the table back then. 700 plus horsepower. But again, it's kind of a weird thing. To me, the Hellcat kind of was the beginning of the ruining of the fast car. And not to get too far into the video that I'm going to put together, but when you start talking about what's fast nowadays, I found myself, I guess, man, I'm really going around my elbow to get to my ass, but I'm driving along in Stormy, and that thing cruises at like 90 miles an hour and you don't even notice it. Well, all cars can do that nowadays. And this is a pickup truck, for crying out loud. It's not like this is some kind of a, you know, sports car or anything like that. It's just, it's stormy. It's a nice truck. So I find myself more and more intrigued by the fact that we've got vehicles now that are so powerful. And, you know, again, Stormy running 13s. It's one of those things where you're just like, at what point is fast not fast enough? If you ever get a chance to watch horsepower, what's his damn, always screws. Anyway, if you ever get a chance to see the old school cars going down the track, one of the things that you're going to run into is a realization that if you only go by the numbers at a drag strip, all of the legends that you ever got worked up over will get walked on by a V6 Camaro. And that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of folks. In fact, if you're kind of like some of these old school guys, sorry, I'm just checking this thing, letting it bleed down. If you're anything like some of these old heads out there, that, you know, it's no replacement for displacement and all this other stuff. Well, I guess there is a replacement for displacement. It's called multiple gears and 4 valves per cylinder. But I guess that would be no replacement for efficiency. But, you know, I find it curious more and more anyway, that when, hang on just a second, guys. Then when we talk about fast and we talk about cool cars, what makes a cool car? Anyway, to get to the point, my argument is that the Hellcat just simply isn't a cool car. It's not that it's not an impressive car, but it's not a cool car. It doesn't give you the freak out that 700 horsepower should give you, and yet it still runs a 10-second quarter-mile time. It's goofy little things like that that will that kind of get your attention. Hang on just a second, guys. I'm going to spin this thing over and see if I see any bubbles popping up over here. Bear with me, guys. Hang on. Might get a little bit loud. Hang on. Hopefully I don't end up wearing this light. Bear with me. Well, no bubbles. That's a good thing. I still think this thing's got a cooked head gasket, but we shall see. And I really do think it got stung. So the throttle bodies were kind of hung open just a little bit. And the first time it kicked off, it ran it up. It kind of spun up. Although it never hit a rev limiter. I said it like that. That's my bad. It never hit a rev limiter, and I killed it real quick. So it never was under any real load. But man, I still think it's got a funky head gasket, but we shall see. And at that point, that's when you bust out the green wrench and get this thing to a specialist, because there is no way that I'm going to remove the engine from the frame of this thing and do a head gasket. I just don't have the time resources to do that. But I will say this, I did adjust throttle linkage, all of that's good. One issue that I do have, or did have, are the fuel fittings for this thing. It's got this little plunger type fitting that, anyway, long story short, the 2 little plunger fittings broke, and so I am going to mount the tank. Who knows, I may even try to start this thing again. But I don't know if it will kick off. Anyway, both fuel fittings, the little fuel stop in there is jacked up. So I'm not really sure. It might be clogging the feed line. So we'll see. But let me get, well, I might as well put the tank on here. Let me get some of these connectors. Actually, let me make sure I've got all the connectors on here. And the air box is on the throttle bodies. What the shit? Hang on, daggone it. Don't you hate it when you do that? Got a little bit ahead of myself. Bear with me, guys. Like I said, this is definitely off the cuff, hanging out with you guys tonight while I'm working on this bike. See if we can catch up with y'all real quick. Bear with me here. Oh, Noab is in. What's up, man? Oh, Speed Freak's liking the Azenas. Very nice. Damn, Rome. Scat got stolen. Sorry to hear that, man. Definitely get your theft prevention devices. I mean, now is a little bit late for that, but one of the things that I've been real adamant about with my car is making sure that I've got, you know, I changed up the tune in mine, and the valet mode is now basically a party pooper mode for that thing. It will not rev at all. I don't think it'll go above 1500 RPM. Is that right? Yeah, I think I've got it set to 1500. Actually, might be less than that. I'll put it to you like this: if you try to roll into the throttle at all, it falls dead on its face. So, but keep checking in with you guys. Oh, Jay saying no Jay and no Av. Yeah, thanks guys. I'm sorry for your loss. So I say it's pretty cool though, seeing his knowledge. Yeah, it's actually really cool. It's kind of surreal actually. And what they're talking about, if you're just getting into the show, is my dad passed, and I'm working on his motorcycle right now, and it's a Triumph T595, which is weird. It's a British. It's a 955cc motorcycle, triple. And anyway, he was very active with one of the forums. And so anytime I have a question about my bike, I can, or his bike, I can, it's like I'm asking my dad. Because when I do a search for the fix for whatever problem I seem to be having, it's my dad answering somebody else who may have had the same problem that I'm having. Which is kind of cool when you think about it. So it's kind of like I'm texting my dad saying, hey, what did you do? What were you thinking? I'm like, this thing's got a real sense of humor. All right, let me check in with you guys. Thanks guys, appreciate the condolences. Smoke is asking, do you think you'll ever get a chance to tickle the ivories with the 170 tune? I'm hoping to have a read file on that real soon. Ardell saying fastest and quickest does not make a good driver. Very true. It doesn't make the car cool either. And that's where a lot of people get it twisted. There's absolutely nothing cool about something only because it's fast. You know, there's got to be some other redeeming qualities to the platform. It can't just only be fast, right? So I think where most guys get a little bit off track, if you will, is not only when you start mistaking fast for cool, but I think what most people forget is that part of fast that makes it interesting or fun is that it can be, you know, a little bit scary, right? I mean, you don't want it to be tame. You want it to get your attention, right? Well, the thing with that is, you know, and I've said this quite a few times before about modern cars, they're so, and motorcycles too, by the way, if you guys are into bikes, that my dad and I used to talk about this quite a bit. One of the biggest issues that you would find with guys with bikes, primarily, is that you stop respecting the capabilities of the product that you happen to find yourself on. And that's how guys get hurt. Like, that's the recipe on how to get yourself killed on a motorcycle, aside from target fixation, is for guys to quit respecting the fact that they're, that they're on something that can absolutely turn and kill them. So, we all, especially car guys, we all testing the limits, and we're always, seeing what we can get away with. But, the reality is that at some point, if your skill set's not there, you get yourself killed. And the older stuff, the cool cars, they just were much less forgiving. Modern cars are far more forgiving than the older cars. And what made them cool was the fact that they were scary in a way, right? So anyway, just points to ponder with that while I'm over here trying to get these damn throttle bodies tightened up. By the way, Japanese bikes are far and away easier to work on than these things. It's like Triumph engineers just hated the idea that anybody would ever have to work on their product. I mean, what the shite? Hang on, let me see if I can find a 7mm. Does it even matter? I know. Let me try doing this a different way. We're going to do it the dirty way. Anyway, let me check in with you guys real quick. Bear with me here just a sec, while I get the right bit. Here we go. I was saying the Ferrari F40 has always been almost godlike status, but looking at it now, it only had, like 450 horsepower or something like that. And that's the thing. I mean, you look at that car today by today's standard, and it's, you just go, what was all the freak out about, right? And it's just kind of one of those things where you're exactly right. I mean, nobody can figure out what the big deal was with those things by today's standard, right? I mean, 450 horsepower doesn't do you any good. But, lightweight, carbon fiber, all of that sweet goodness came into play back then. But, again, by today's standard, people just go and look at horsepower numbers, and, a lot of folks get really worked up over horsepower numbers. One of the reasons why I don't like talking about dyno numbers and things like that, it always just seems to, it leads you down the wrong path, and it gives you the way wrong idea as far as what the real performance envelope of that particular vehicle may be. So, that F40, it only had 450 horsepower, but look at what it was able to do with 450 horsepower. The thing was a monster, lightweight and all that good stuff. So, it's just funny though. Guys nowadays don't understand cool. They've never really been exposed to cool cars, neat cars that, are sketchy at best. I always kind of joke about the Viper, as scary as that thing could have been at times. God, this is a pain in the ass. Fucking Triumph. Hold, please. I'm out. Hang on. I don't know what the deal is here. Having a hell of a time getting this thing to sit down. One of the things that, we used to notice quite a bit and make comments about was, You know, at what point is 1,000 horsepower just not enough? I mean, we went past that a long time ago, right? But, you know, at what point did 1,000 horsepower just be like commonplace? You know, in the era of, you know, 11 and 1,200 horsepower to the rear wheels builds. But, you know, the reality is that those numbers are really only coming from the aftermarket. You know, you don't see any OEs going that deep, you know, for obvious reasons. It's just, I don't think you could warrant it. Like literally, you couldn't write a warranty for it. But, I'll tell you, working on old stuff, what a pain. Hang on. It's funny, it's like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back with this thing. Bear with me, guys. This is the not glamorous part of being into cars or bikes or anything like that too. This is another reason why I kind of wanted to do this video like this, because, you know, it's it's just kind of funny to me that, you know, most of the time, you know, when guys are asking me questions about different combinations and what does this do and what kind of power does that make and all this other stuff, you never get a chance to see the behind the scenes part of this. In that you don't get a chance to see the, you know, the mundane portion of it. So this is your opportunity to see that and just how annoying that can get. You know, when you're trying to do something as simple as get this freaking airbox to sit down on top of these throttle bodies. Oh, hell. Oh, there it is. Oh, shit. I totally fucked up. Hang on, guys. Hold on. Talking about the not glamorous part of it. Where did that magnet go? I think I set it down over here. There it is. Where'd the light go? This big ass magnet fishing stuff out of this thing. Well, shit. Well, somewhere a T20 has decided to exit the chat. Where did you go, my little guy? Don't you love it when that happens? Hang on, I got to get a different magnet. This one is too big. Hopefully I've got one. Soon it hadn't run off. Hopefully this one is small enough to get down in there. Ah, you bitch. Bear with me, guys. I'm having to play a game of operation down here with this thing. I think I just made it worse. So that's one thing about working on motorcycles. You want to talk about no room Good night. And I've got a magnet that is just one size too big. Might have to get something sticky to stick down in there. Where's the tape? Hang on. I don't have any gum or anything like that to stick down in there, but I do have some tape. And sometimes you get lucky. Oh shit, now I can't even see it. Other times you don't get lucky. Let's see. Well, I'm going to have to find one of my small magnets. Let's see if I can do it. And fetch this thing out of here with this. Well, I got some dirt. Does that count? I don't think it does. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to find one of the small magnets. Where did I put a small magnet? Anyway, like I was saying earlier, this is the not so glamorous side to this. You guys have ever wanted to get into this kind of stuff, this is the type of stuff that you'll be looking forward to. Here we go. Oh my gosh, what in the world? Where? But yeah, motorcycle stuff's always kind of a pain because everything is so itty freaking bitty and it's crammed in here. Like, you wonder, like, how did they even think to do this? Makes you wonder. Oh, for crying out loud. And this thing, by the way, is full of mud dauber nests. This hasn't been run in, what was it, 7 years? And in that 7 years, down here in Texas, you get these damn mud daubers that lay, or that make these little mud dauber castles out of mud, and they put them in everything that's not covered up or sealed in, like, hermetically sealed in plastic. And damn, if they didn't make this thing like this was a 4-star accommodation, you'd have thought, for those little guys. What the fuck? Anyway, let me get back to you guys, see what y'all are up to. Let's see. Red Dog, what's up? Asking if I'm putting nitrous on the bike. Not on a T595. I'd like for it to just run or, you know, drive around under its own power first. Smokey said his dad's 55 Chevy has a 500 horse 383. Cushy bent seat, no seat belts, and one piston, small disc brakes. It's fun to drive. Exciting is another phrase for those old cars too. They will certainly maintain your attention, no question about that. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get back to it. I just wanted to bring y'all a little bit into the mix, show you guys what I'm up to. And so I'm going to get back to work, but as always, good hanging out. And, you know, guys, as I always say, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. We're going to send it, don't bend it. Keep your shiny side up. Dad, miss and love you. And with that, that is a wrap. Adios.